entertainment industry, most male stars fade from view because they become unpredictable. A careless remark, an uncontrolled emotion, an unexpected association, and the system quietly distances itself. Disappearances in Cbiz are often explained as accidents, scandals, or bad timing. But there is another path, far less visible, where a star does not fall because he failed, but because he succeeded too well. Wang Yibo represents that path. Unlike many of his peers, his career has never been defined by controversy. He has not challenged public boundaries, expressed strong personal stances, or created uncertainty around his image. Instead, his presence has remained remarkably consistent. Films, television dramas, brand endorsements, variety shows, official events. He is everywhere, yet always within acceptable limits. In a system built on controlling risk, that consistency turns a celebrity into something more than an artist. Wang Yibo is not simply managed. He is structured. His image functions as a reliable asset, one that can be placed into any setting without fear of backlash. Silence is interpreted as maturity. Restraint becomes professionalism. Over time, these qualities stop being personal traits and start becoming system requirements. This is where the paradox begins. When a star becomes too safe, too stable, and too valuable to disrupt, the system no longer allows space for deviation. Choices narrow quietly. Creativity is filtered through layers of caution. Freedom is not taken away through punishment, but through optimization. This story is not about mistakes, scandals, or downfall. It is about what happens when everything goes right, when success turns into responsibility, when obedience becomes reliability, and when a flawless public record leaves no room to move differently. Wang Yibo's position in Cbiz did not happen by accident. It was carefully shaped through a long process of positioning, refinement, and strategic placement. From the beginning, he was not promoted as a volatile star driven by personal expression, but as a figure who could be trusted to remain within boundaries. This distinction matters in an industry where unpredictability is treated as a liability rather than a creative trait. As his popularity grew, the system began to distribute him across multiple sectors at once. Film roles, television appearances, mainstream variety shows, and high-value brand endorsements all followed a similar pattern. None of these spaces required him to dominate attention through controversy or strong opinion. Instead, they required consistency, discipline, and emotional neutrality. Wang Yibo fit that requirement perfectly. Over time, his career stopped being about individual projects and started functioning as a coordinated structure. Each appearance reinforced the same image. Each collaboration confirmed his reliability. The system did not need him to surprise audiences. It needed him to stabilize them. In this sense, his visibility was not a reward, but a responsibility. What makes this positioning unusual is how little room it leaves for personal recalibration. When a star becomes an anchor for multiple commercial and institutional interests, deviation carries consequences far beyond a single project. A shift in tone, a change in persona, or an attempt at reinvention introduces risk to every connected platform. Wang Yibo's value, therefore, is not only measured by popularity, but by how little uncertainty he generates. He becomes an asset whose purpose is to reduce friction. And once a star serves that function, the system begins to protect the image more than the individual behind it. The turning point in Wang Yibo's career is not marked by a scandal or a public crisis. It is marked by something far quieter. A moment when his image became so refined, so carefully calibrated, that there was no longer any visible separation between the individual and the role assigned to him by the system. At that stage, success stops being momentum and starts becoming containment. By this point, Wang Yibo was no longer evaluated as an evolving artist. He was evaluated as a finished structure. His public behavior, media interactions, and professional choices followed a consistent pattern that left little room for interpretation. Nothing felt spontaneous, and nothing was allowed to be misunderstood. This was not because of personal weakness, but because predictability had become his greatest asset. In Cbiz, unpredictability creates problems. It generates speculation, demands damage control, and introduces uncertainty into commercial partnerships. Wang Yibo's image did the opposite. It minimized risk. That is why the system leaned into it. The more reliable he became, the more the system invested in keeping him exactly as he was. This is where the cost begins to surface. When a star is optimized to this degree, deviation is no longer seen as growth. It is seen as a malfunction. Artistic experimentation becomes difficult to justify. Emotional range is narrowed. Public silence is encouraged, not as a personal choice, but as a professional standard. The tragedy here is subtle. There is no collapse, no punishment, no disappearance. Instead, there is a slow closing of options. Wang Yibo's career continues to expand outward, but inward, the space to change becomes increasingly limited. The conflict in Wang Yibo's career does not come from rebellion or resistance. It comes from alignment. When a star aligns too perfectly with the needs of the system, personal intention gradually loses relevance. Decisions are no longer made around artistic curiosity, but around stability, continuity, and risk avoidance. At this stage, Wang Yibo is no longer navigating his career alone. Every choice exists within a network of expectations. Brands require consistency. Platforms require safety. Institutions require control. None of these forces act aggressively, yet together they form a structure that quietly limits deviation. What appears to be freedom is, in reality, a carefully managed corridor. This creates a unique form of pressure. Wang Yibo is not constrained by explicit rules, but by the weight of what depends on him remaining unchanged. Any shift in image threatens not just one project, but an entire ecosystem built on his reliability. As a result, experimentation becomes costly. Reinvention becomes unnecessary in the eyes of the system. The conflict is internal and structural at the same time. The system values Wang Yibo precisely because he does not disrupt it. Yet this same value makes it difficult for him to redefine himself on his own terms. He is expected to perform consistency rather than growth, control rather than exploration. In this environment, success stops being a personal journey and becomes a maintenance task. Wang Yibo's career moves forward, but only within boundaries that grow more rigid over time. The system does not force him to stay. It simply makes leaving the assigned role increasingly impractical. The climax of Wang Yibo's story lies in a contradiction that rarely appears dramatic on the surface. He has no scandal to escape from and no crisis to reset his image. In Cbiz, many stars reinvent themselves only after failure forces change. Wang Yibo has been denied that rupture by his own stability. Because his record is clean, the system sees no reason to adjust the formula. Every project reinforces the same expectations. Every appearance confirms that the existing structure works. Over time, success becomes circular. Visibility produces more visibility, but never transformation. The system rewards repetition because repetition minimizes uncertainty. This is where the idea of the perfect asset reaches its limit. An asset is preserved, not challenged. It is protected from risk, not exposed to it. Wang Yibo's value lies in remaining recognizable, not in evolving beyond recognition. As long as he continues to meet expectations, the system has no incentive to let him change. Paradoxically, this makes freedom harder to access than punishment. A scandal creates distance. A controversy forces recalibration. But flawless obedience offers no opening for redefinition. There is nothing to recover from, and therefore nothing to renegotiate. The climax is quiet because nothing breaks. Wang Yibo remains visible, respected, and active, Yet the absence of disruption becomes its own form of constraint. The system does not need to cage him visibly. It only needs to keep everything working exactly as it is. Wang Yibo's case forces a broader reflection on how Cbiz defines success. He is not a cautionary tale of rebellion or collapse. He is evidence of a different mechanism, one where obedience, silence, and reliability are rewarded so consistently that they become inescapable. His career shows what happens when a star is never allowed to fail. Within the silent system, Wang Yibo is not restricted. Through punishment, he is preserved through optimization. The system protects what it considers valuable, and protection often comes with conditions that are never spoken aloud. Freedom is not denied openly. It is quietly deprioritized. This does not mean Wang Yibo lacks agency. It means his agency exists inside a structure that values predictability over expression. The more perfectly he fulfills that role, the harder it becomes to step outside it without disrupting the very system that sustains his position. In this sense, Wang Yibo is neither trapped nor free. He occupies a space designed for stability, not transformation. His success is real, but it is managed. His visibility is constant, but it is regulated. The system does not silence him. It simply ensures that silence remains the safest option. The perfect asset does not break the system. The system does not need to break him. As long as balance is maintained, both continue to exist, quietly reinforcing each other without ever asking what might happen if the asset were allowed to change.